All right, welcome everyone. We're here for the Spotted Lanternfly talk presented by myself. My name is Tyler Sachs. I work for the Lehigh County Conservation District. I am the Spotted Lanternfly outreach educator as well as the West Nile virus field technician. So anyone that has experienced the mosquitoes over the summer, I'm the one that had to deal with all that. You're probably not very happy about that because 2018 was the worst year on record for West Nile virus. But you probably noticed a little bit more the lanternflies that have been infesting our area. Lanternflies, they were introduced to Pennsylvania in 2014 in Berks County. They came in on a pallet that had an egg mass from China with cut stone on it. Since have expanded. Let's get into it. So the spotted lanternfly. Who here has not seen a spotted lanternfly? Anyone? Nope. Let's see how to work this. So a little bit about the Lehigh County Conservation District. We were established in 1946. There are currently 66 conservation districts in Pennsylvania. Philadelphia is the only county without a conservation district. It's governed by a volunteer board of citizen directors. It was staffed by employees of the Soil Conservation Service and the U.S. Department of Agriculture who work with farmers to develop farm conservation plans. We currently have a staff of about 25, and we range from nutrient management, biosolids application, as well as soil conservation, erosion and settlement, control from urban development sites, farmland preservation, conservation education, and watershed protection. So the reason that we really are involved in the spotted lanternfly outreach is mostly because of the use of pesticides. Pesticide runoff is bad, if you didn't know that already. So if we can educate the public on how to properly get rid of a pest and implement an integrated pest management program to kind of eliminate any pesticides that need to be used or suppress the amount that needs to be used, that's what we are going to do. So, the spotted lanternfly, is it a butterfly? Is it a moth? Neither. Spotted lanternfly is a plant hopper. I get asked a lot about how it changes between phases. People assume that it goes through the same kind of life cycle as a butterfly, and it has a caterpillar stage, creates a cocoon. Nope, they mold out. It develops from an egg to an adult in 1 year. It dies after the first hard frost, though it seems to be adapting to our cold environment. This past summer, or past winter, was particularly cold, and we got to see them a little bit longer than we hoped. So there is one generation per life cycle. September to December is the egg masses are laid. Late April to mid-July, we're going to start to see the first instars hatch. Late April, early May. There's the first instar, that's what's going to hatch, which molts into the second instar, the third instar, and then July through September, we're going to start to see the fourth instar, which is that red one in the middle right. And then by July, we're going to start to see the adults. And then adults are going to come out September to December. That time, you're going to start to see some of the adults. You can differentiate the males from the females. The males are much smaller. The females are a little bit larger. By the time it's time to lay eggs, the females are going to get very big and gravid from all their eggs. We've got a few pinned up here. You could really tell the difference between the two when you go to kill the female lanternflies that have about 40 to 60 eggs inside of them. It makes a mess. Egg masses. The size is deceiving. On the left, you can see a newly laid egg mass. They kind of look like rows of corn almost. On the right, there's the bottom half that's covered up. Has anyone felt the egg masses before? Everyone's experienced them. It's kind of like it looks like chewing gum that's stuck to a tree, but it has the consistency of clay. You can squash it, it pops. We've got scraping cards for everyone to take home and start scraping away. So the egg masses, they are laid on anything stationary. We've got the burn pit, the 2x6, some metal posting, horse trailers, anything that is stationary and flat, they're going to lay their eggs on. Where did they come from? They are native to China, India, Vietnam, and Bangladesh. They were introduced to Japan and South Korea, introduced in Pennsylvania, as we said, in 2014 in Berks County. What damage have they done? Left unmitigated, the spotted lanternfly spread throughout South Korea and destroyed the peach industry in just 3 years. They severely impair the health of the leaves, trees of more than 70 different species, primarily the ailanthus tree, the tree of heaven. They suck the sap out, they excrete the honeydew drops to everything below it, it grows the black sooty mold, prevents other plants from going through photosynthesis. It can be bad. They can suck grapevines dry. Concerns in Pennsylvania. We have a very large hardwood industry in Pennsylvania. Forest products alone is $16.7 billion. The grape industry, $28 million. The apple industry, $87 million. Peaches, $19 million. Landscape and nursery industry, $944 million is at stake. So what is the honeydew? The honeydew is the insect's feces. That's what they excrete. It grows the black sooty mold. The plants get covered in it. They can't photosynthesize. You can see all over these the leaves here, covered in the black sooty mold. That is very common when you start getting into the heavily infestated areas. A lot of the residential homes, their back porches, if they have a tree that's hanging above the porch, it drops down on all of the lumber, all the porch furniture. So damage that we can't estimate. Property values, tourism in the PA parks and game lands, the PA ecosystem, new business initiatives, Port of Philadelphia, PA Preferred Brewery, they do affect the hops, they do affect the grapevines. Guys, you might be able to see on the bottom of the children's play set, the bottom of the swing set, there's egg masses all laid along the green sliding board. And then I believe that's one of our district cars with a spotted lanternfly crawling up the side. Quarantine counties. I just got to update this list, sadly. Dauphin County was the newest added county of the Pennsylvania under the quarantine zone. My picture isn't even up to date. The picture does show a great representation of where the quarantine zone started and expanded to. So 2014, we've got just that little section of Berks County. And then 2015, it expanded a little bit more into Bucks, Montgomery. I don't think it expanded into Lehigh until 2016. And then 2017, it expanded greatly. And they just plastered the entire county. The hope was to really donut the area and kind of suppress it there. Now we're seeing it's expanding into Dauphin County, but there is still hope. I have documentation. USDA did a study to show where the established sites are in Pennsylvania and kind of show that there was a donut around the area and that the established population is not outside of what we have quarantined currently. There might be a hitchhiker every once in a while, and they do investigate any reported sightings for an established population, but none have been confirmed yet. And if there are, the quarantine zone will be expanded. So what happens if you live inside of a quarantine zone? If you see it, you squash it. Look before you leave, and do not knowingly move spotted lanternflies. Check your cars before you go on a long trip, especially if you go outside of the quarantine zone. Remove egg masses. Do not transport any firewood to go camping. Trailers that have been sitting for a long time. Horse trailers. House debris. Lumber. The list goes on. So IPM, does anyone know what IPM is? I said it earlier. We've got one. Anyone else know what it stands for? So IPM is Integrated Pest Management. It's a multi-step scientific approach to tackling pests. It identifies an economic threshold, so when that pest we have reaches a certain point that it's going to start costing us money, that's the point that we need to take action and combat the enemy. There's different steps to integrated pest management. First is really identifying what we have at stake. So, knowledge. What is the pest? What's the life cycle? What are the predators? We need to know what our problem is. We can't just start spraying like crazy and if we don't have a problem. Prevention. If we do have a pest and we know of it, what can we do to prevent the problem? Host management. So this doesn't really work with the spotted lanternfly, but for corn or soybeans, we can rotate crops. That's a good preventative measurement to eliminate a pest. If we've got something that's eating corn, we rotate it out the next year with soybeans. That is a prevention method. Observation. What's their behavior? Intervention. We start out with the least lethal or dangerous method first, mechanical. So the sticky bands, they aren't very harmful if you're using them properly. We'll get into that later. Biological. Can we use some sort of predator on them? Can we use bacteria? Then there's chemical. Chemical, we start with the least lethal type first and move our way up until we have something that works. And then finally, evaluation and planning. Did it work? Did we eliminate the pest that we were trying to eliminate? How did it work? Did it affect anything else? Is it adapting? Do we need to use a different type of method to eliminate this pest? So the action threshold. We'll skim over this. This isn't. This is integrated pest management. It is important, though. This is what we use for mosquito combat. So before taking any pest control action, IPM, it needs to set an action threshold. That's the point at which the pest population or environmental conditions indicate that the pest control action must be taken. Citing a single pest does not mean that control needs to be taken. And then there is a graph. It does show the economic threshold and then the action threshold. So when does it start going to cost us money? Monitor and identify the pests. Not all insects, weeds, and other living organisms require control. Many organisms are noxious. Some are beneficial. IPM programs, they work to monitor for pests and identify them accurately so the appropriate control decisions can be made in conjunction with the action threshold. This monitoring and identification removes the possibility that pesticides will be used when they are not really needed or the wrong kind of pesticide will be used. The wrong kind of pesticide being used is a big issue that we face currently with the spotted lanternfly. Prevention. As a first line of pest control, IPM programs work to manage the crop lawn or indoor space to prevent pests from becoming a threat. If we've got ants inside, they're attracted to the sugar. Get rid of the sugar, or whatever it is that they're attracted to. If we're leaving stuff out on the counter, get rid of that. Crops, like we talked about, rotate the crops. That's a good preventative measure. Control. Once monitoring, identification, and action thresholds indicate that pest control is required and preventative methods are no longer effective or available, IPM programs then evaluate the proper control method for both effectiveness and risk. This is when we get into mechanical, biological, or chemical control. So, what has been the preferred host as identified by the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture has been the ailanthus tree, or the tree of heaven. That is the preferred host, as far as we know, of the spotted lanternfly. So identifying yourself with the tree of heaven is a great thing to do. If you have it on your property, either cut it down. We'll get into that a little bit later. Does anyone have tree of heaven on their property? You got one?
Well, if I can stop right there.
Sure.
It's not directly on my property, but across the street
Yeah.
brush, trees, whatever. And there are hundreds of those trees of heaven scattered around all over the place,
So,
leading down to the creek. Anyway, the point is, that's not something we can cut down. We're not
yep.
allowed to. So, go ahead.
Okay. The problem is we've got multiple that aren't on your property. So Ailanthus trees, they are an invasive species. It grows pretty much anywhere. You'll see it a lot along 78, along the highways. It grows really just anywhere. Stuff that isn't on your property, that's a different issue that would have to be really taken up with whoever owns the property. If it is as we're kind of referring to as like a Superfund site or a very hot spot for the spotted lanternfly, Department of Agriculture or United States Department of Agriculture can be contacted, and they can come out and do really the boots on ground effect and really treat all of those trees, or contact the owner, eliminate that problem.
So just to take my comment one step further.
Sure.
Lately, over the past 4 or 5 weeks, there have been several PA Department of Agriculture vehicles in and around this area.
Okay.
So they're probably already doing that.
So if they're already in the area.
I was going to
yeah.
make that point anyway. However, if this isn't on your property, I don't recommend you cutting anything down.
No.
You're in serious trouble. You don't want to cut down any
Yeah.
species. However, from what I've seen, at least where I live, the PA Department of Agriculture seems to be actively looking around to see what the next step would be.
From a homeowner's point of view, do not treat anything that is not on your property. It's illegal to treat anything that is not on your property. Do not do it. You will face a fine, possibly jail time. And I'm glad you brought that up. We have encountered some people who've spoke about that, and it seems like common sense to me not to do something that's not on your property, but it does come up, so sometimes I do overlook that. Familiarize yourself with the Ailanthus tree, but there are many other trees, 80 of them plus, that they are attracted to, so this isn't the only one. There are familiar lookalikes that they are attracted to as well, so we do have a great calendar. I have some handouts. They're out front right now. This is it's management calendar for you to know when to start looking for different life stages of the spotted lanternfly. When is the great time to put the sticky band up? What is a great time to start doing chemical or mechanical control? And furthermore, when is a great time to start scraping eggs? Where am I likely to find egg masses? On anything outdoors that's stationary. Recreational and camping items, outdoor household items, building materials, yard and garden items, children's outdoor play equipment, anything. Has anyone seen spotted lanternflies as bad as up here on their property? This was in Montgomery County, I believe. And this isn't even that bad compared to what's out there. What do we do here? So this tree, I believe, now it's only on it's only on the face of the tree, it looks like. Oh no, it does wrap around. So this tree, most likely it was getting ready to be injected with dinotetrafurin. So they're going to inject the tree with the systemic, just like you had your tree treated with the soil drench, and that's going to kill all of the lanternflies on there. So mechanical control, the sticky band. That's a great mechanical control device. What I don't have pictured here that I highly recommend to anyone that's going to start sticky banding is that you go out, you buy chicken wire, you buy box wire, you build a cage around that sticky band, and you prevent anything else from getting stuck to that you're not looking to catch. We've had too many pictures of birds, other small mammals, squirrels, chipmunks, bats, the owls, the eastern screech owl, pictures of that. They've got too much surface area with all their fur. It's too harmful to the birds, the other small mammals. Put a cage around it. Save a mammal's life.
Where do you get that wide band sticky tape?
So Home Depot sells it, local hardware stores sell it. We just got a roll of it in the conservation district that we're going to be handing out to municipalities, so we're then going to divvy it out based upon their discretion. That part is still in the workings right now, but it is available at local hardware stores. They recognize the problem, and they also recognize the market. They're going to start they have been selling it. Home Depot, Lowe's. Spring is a great time to start it. We recommend that you change it out every 2 weeks. Check it every 2 weeks. There is currently an app in development that Department of Agriculture, I believe, is running it. I could be wrong, though. To start listing, if you are going to be using these sticky bands, they want you to start recording in the app how many you're getting on that sticky band every 2 weeks. It's a great data point that we can receive from the community to help in our research. That's still in the working, though. Chemical control. Pennsylvania law requires that pesticide labels list the site where a pesticide, such as an insecticide, may be used. In Pennsylvania, insecticide labels do not have to specifically list the target insect. There are insecticides labeled for the use on ornamental trees and around buildings. These products are legal to use on the sites listed in order to control spotted lanternflies in Pennsylvania. So what that means is a lot of people, in many other states, it is true that if the insect is not listed on the label of that product, you cannot use that product to kill that insect. Or the bottle or the label of the pesticide needs to list that specific insect if you're going to use that product to kill that insect. Otherwise, it's illegal. In Pennsylvania, however, it goes by the area that you will be using it. So ornamental trees, if you have an ornamental tree in your yard that is infested with spotted lanternflies, there are products available that are listed for ornamental tree use that you can use. It's out there. Most of a lot of people, what they're using are the contact killers, which are just going to kill what you spray on contact. It is not going to leave any residual effect. It's not going to last very long. The best use of chemical control would be in a tree injection or a soil drench. It's going to soak up through the roots, or if you inject it in the tree, it's going to be injected right into the tree. It's going to go up a lot quicker. When the insect feeds on the tree, it's going to kill it. And there's been multiple studies that have been done, that are still being done, on what chemicals are working the best, what has the longest residual effect, what has the most lethal effect on them. Dinotetrafuran has been the leading chemical in that regards.
And how long does that last?
Considering that they just started really all of these studies, I don't know exactly how long.
I might be able to answer that, not specifically, but in a roundabout way.
Okay.
I had a guy come out from one of these professional tree services out on my property the other day.
Yeah.
And I had 3 huge maple trees, and over the winter, the bark turned black. Anyway, so he's going to come back in 2 weeks and put an injection in the trees. And what he said was that he'll come out in the middle of April and put the initial injection in.
Yeah.
And maybe you can keep going once I get to the end of this. And then he'll come back in the fall and do a secondary treatment. I don't know what that is. You probably know more about it than I would. But I guess the first injection must last or work through the summer months in the fall, to answer your question. Now, I'm speculating. I don't know for sure. I'm just basing this on the conversation I had 2 days ago with this guy. So, or what it's worth. I don't know if that helps you.
There's multiple different private businesses that are going around and doing kind of their own thing, and they have a license to do that. As far as what the best use of it is, it's still undetermined what the best. Hi.
Hi. So I've been in touch with someone who has been doing research
is,
Ideal month, because it's dealing with a tree going through the process of photosynthesis and osmosis and the cooling of, liquids into the tree. So you can't just dump these things on your tree and expect them to work. There's a method to it.
there's,
I'm not an expert on it, but that's what I've been told.
Sure, yeah.
there is, it's more of like a parabola. So there is a great time to do it, but it does still work. It's not as effective though. So you do have, you're correct. It is, there's a great time to use it, but then it does work throughout the year, and they have seen that. That's been one of the tests that's been being done, is kind of when is the great time to use it, because we do have people going out and doing these drenches kind of all year long. So a controlled environment, we can test to see what the best time of year is to do it. And because the problem is so bad, we have plenty of space to do tests and plenty of controlled environments. So picture, if you haven't seen it, a tree injection is literally a hypodermic needle that is injected into the tree with the systemic. Getting rid of spotted lanternfly egg masses, what I can do right now. So what this is saying to do is to go outside and scrape as many egg masses as you can with the scraper cards that I provided to you into a container of alcohol. What I've been doing is being out in the field, seeing as many as I have. I don't have as many bottles as egg masses as I've seen, so I've literally just been sticking a thumb to it, squashing it, making sure there's nothing left. But if you do have one or two on your property, make sure you get rid of it. So what should you do with the waste in your yard? Avoid moving any plant debris. Don't be transporting it down the road to a dump site. Shouldn't be going to a dump site to begin with. Branches, inspect the yard waste and destroy any egg masses. If you are going to be cutting down a tree, or any business that's cutting down a tree, they already know this, or they should know this, to chip all the wood debris to about 1-inch pieces, and it should be left on site or composted. Properly composted, it should get to the temperature to kill it.
So there's lower country to do that now, or,
I would assume so, yeah.
take all like our waste,
I would assume that Lower Macungie is up to date on yard waste. And we are in the quarantine zone, so what would be more worrisome is that if we were on the edge of the quarantine zone and we were transporting debris. We're in the quarantine zone, so it's, as bad as it is to say, it's not as important inside the quarantine zone, especially since we're in the center, but we should still be very concerned about eliminating everything that we can. Moving in and out of the quarantine zone, if you do own a business, if you are a contractor, you need to have a permit. It's required that you have a permit under Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture. As you can see in the spotted lanternfly permit holder that we have in our car with a lanternfly walking underneath the, or above it in the picture. And then we've got a nymph on our tire found during an inspection. So the quarantine zone. For business, agencies, and organizations, a spotted lanternfly permit is required for those located or working within the quarantine zone who move vehicles, products, or other conveniences within or out of the quarantine zone. They are available at the extension website. It's about a 2-hour kind of video / quiz. You put in the number of permits that you need. You get your permits in the mail. You're permitted. If you are stopped, now they just came out in the Department of Transportation, if you are stopped in a DOT stop and you do not have your permit, you will be fined.
What is that? Can you go over that again?
The permit is a a promise or it is for business owners or anyone who's transporting anything in or out of the quarantine zone to say that they are walking around their vehicle and inspecting their vehicle and whatever products they are transporting for egg masses, lanternflies, etc.
So is this like to passenger cars too? Or
It does not apply to passenger cars. For residents,
School buses.
yes.
I don't think the school bus company knows anything about this. Nothing.
Uh,
They go out of the quarantine zone every day.
yeah.
We're getting kind of broad here, but what about businesses that are from out of state, like a moving company, and they bring a truck here from Indiana?
So that's another thing that I don't know what exactly the best solution is, but yes. And even if you go to Department of Agriculture's, Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture's website, they have the Delaware, New Jersey, I believe those are the two that are listed online. They have their own quarantine zones set up, so if you're going into their quarantine zones, you should be taking their permit as well. But it is, it does go both ways, though. If you have the Pennsylvania tag, you're okay in Delaware, but if you're doing it regularly, you should be getting their permit as well. But it is required by everyone to have it if they're driving a commercial vehicle. Regulation-wise, I'm not sure how far that's going to go. There have been talks about lanternflies stuck in the grills of tractor trailers going towards New York and have been turned around. Spotted lanternflies, they're not harmless to humans. They don't overwinter in homes. There was a big concern that the spotted lanternflies were going to hatch on the Christmas trees in everyone's homes over the winter. They do threaten an $18 billion agricultural product, and that is forest products. The hardwood industry in Pennsylvania is massive, and spotted lanternfly can do a big damage. Black sooty mold, it's a byproduct of the honeydew. The honeydew, it's what they excrete. If you've walked under it, it feels like it's raining on you. It is pretty gross. It's like sugar water. That's what the black sooty mold grows on. It is definitely going to affect us. It's not dangerous to us, but it's not a great sight when it covers our decks, our patios, our furniture, or our plants. So outlook and the measures being taken. United States Department of Agriculture and Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture report that they are cautiously optimistic with regard to the management so far. It is hoped that the quarantine zone will not be expanded in PA this year. This was made before it was expanded the past few weeks to Dolphin. That should be SLF. Population hasn't spread as much as it has been anticipated, and reasons for that are unclear. So why they haven't spread outside of that donut that we've set is unclear. Is it because our quarantine zone is, we've got everyone on board and everyone's squashing enough to prevent it from spreading? I don't know. United States Department of Agriculture, what they are primarily working on is donutting the area, preventing it from spreading outside of what we have set so far. Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture, they are working with Penn State University, who is doing the majority of the research for the spotted lanternfly control. Working on education, working on outreach, reports from Penn State Extension and University are all available online if you haven't visited their website. It is pretty interesting, as well as the Department of Agriculture website. They have a lot of information about the research being done currently and more on pretty much everything that I'm covering tonight in depth. I'll cover, if you think you have a high priority site, contact Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture. As you said, they do put the boots on ground. If they have a site that is bad, they will come to it. Yep.
Are the permits free or do you have to pay for them?
Permits are free. Permits are free. You just need to take the quiz online to show that you, or to learn about it really, show that you know what is at stake, show that you know what you're supposed to be looking for, but it's free. So this is the really interesting stuff that most people haven't heard of. It's the research projects that are being done. This is only a quarter of all of the listed research projects that are on Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture's website. And so there are multiple, if not 80% of all of the research projects are still in progress. It takes a while to test all of these different things. We can't just find a pesticide that kills it and start spraying that like crazy. We need to find something that doesn't harm everything else in the area, the pollinators, the beneficial insects, which, by the way, most of the pesticides that are available to use currently affect everything else.
Can you just read a couple of the research projects?
Yeah, yep, definitely.
I can't read it from
No.
back
So, egg mass treatment. Right now, there's it's a scheduled. Now that probably should be updated per the website, although this was updated today. USDA is doing egg mass treatments to see if there's something that can be sprayed on egg masses to kill the eggs so we don't have to squish them or scrape them. Ag economic impact study is currently being done with the crops within the quarantine zone and then Pennsylvania to see how it's impacting our agriculture, how it is going to affect us economically. That's being done by Penn State University. Genetic markers, ID of the origins of PA invasion and to help determine the size of the population. So that it's starting to get really far down into the biology of the spotted lanternfly. Bacterial and fungal associates of the spotted lanternfly. This is going to determine bacterial and fungal communities in spotted lanternfly, salivary glands, and the proboscis. So one of the concerns is that spotted lanternfly can have bacteria in the proboscis and spread it between trees. Bacteria in trees is bad. If we start spreading disease, that could really be bad news. So currently there's a project to see if they are going to start spreading bacteria.
Can I just interject? The spotted lanternfly have sucking mouth parts. So they inject into the tree to feed. And what he's talking about specifically the proboscis is the feeding part of the insect.
Yeah.
So that could contain bacteria that could cause problems for the tree.
So does everyone know what the proboscis looks like? No? So when they emerge, take a look at them. They are pretty cool insects, as bad as they are. So the proboscis is like a mosquito. A mosquito has a proboscis. That's that long needle-like thing that they have that they inject into your skin to suck your blood. These guys, it's about a little bit longer than half the size of their body, and they find microscopic holes in the tree bark, and that's what they inject into the tree to suck the sap out of the tree, which is what drains the tree. So spreading bacteria is bad. Impacts on the feeding of grapes. There's currently studies being done in Berks County on how the spotted lanternflies are going to affect the vineyards, if it's going to affect the wine industry, well, how it's going to affect the wine industry, the taste of the wine, for that matter. One of my favorites is the RNAi-based control for spotted lanternfly. So this is a very in-depth study to see it's a very selective control. It's done in corn so that it picks out individual pests and kills them rather than affecting everything else. That's a very interesting study. It's in the preliminary stages, so that'll be going on for a while. And that's being done by University of Kentucky and Penn State University.
I saw a lot of the local vineyards with nets over them. Is that to protect the
So they could,
Raised from birds, or is that to protect from these?
that'll be for spotted lanternfly. So there's many different protective measures that these people are taking, just because the effect that the spotted lanternfly has had on some of the vineyards has been devastating just over the past few years. And so netting them, there have been a few that have just taken very large economic losses from just vines that aren't producing. There's even researchers that are living on one of the farms just to monitor how it is affecting the grape
I don't
vines.
mean to take you off topic,
Nope.
but I do have one question. I know that Vince, there's a shopping area called the Promenade.
Yeah. Yep.
I remember going to the movies one time, like in August, and there were millions of lanternflies all around the building, and it looked like they were all dead. What would explain them to be around the building? And did they spray them or something? Or
So
what caused them to be attracted to a building?
that's something that is interesting. It's a lot of stone buildings. You do see them. No, we're based out of South Whitehall Township in Allentown, and we have the retirement home right next door. So if you walk around the retirement home, and that's a 6-story building. They're all along the fascia of the building, just walking around. And part of the thought is that they're going up and trying to get height so that they can glide down and find a host tree somewhere in the area. Part of it is thought to be that they can go up there and kind of bask in the sun and regulate their body temperature. I don't know about the buildings. It's something that has been interesting to me, especially a lot of local just fast food restaurants. You go around the buildings and they're all over the place. As far as the promenades go, I don't know if they would, that's a privately owned area, so if they probably have a commercial landscaping business that might come in and do treatments, but as far as that goes, it could just be people squashing them. Hamilton Boulevard in Allentown, they were everywhere, and you walk down the road and there's a lot of dead ones, and part of that is just because people are actually squashing them as they walk down by.
Where on Hamilton?
Hamilton Boulevard, right on the PP&L building, the main stretch right there. I don't know what the crossroads is, I forget right now. But go online, look at the research projects. They are pretty impressive. Most of them are in progress right now. There's a few in review. Again, up-to-date information. Department of Agriculture. Extension website. The extension website, if you do have anything, if you spot anything that's outside of the quarantine zone or even on the edge, report it to the Spotted Lanternfly call center. There is a 8 to 4 o'clock call center. It might even be 24-hour out in State College, but there's someone live on the other end of the phone that is waiting for a phone call to list it on the interactive map, and will send you up-to-date information as more information comes out. If there is a sighting outside of the quarantine zone or even close to the edge, they will send out a team of researchers to establish whether or not it is an established population outside or on the edge, or if it's just a drifter that caught a ride on someone's car going down 78. More questions? The hotline, there is a volunteer waiting for you on the other end of the phone to answer any questions that you might further have on spotted lanternflies, both English and in Spanish. More information is coming out every day. It's brand new to the area. We don't know as much as we'd like to know about them, but research is being done. It's better to have the knowledge behind it before we start taking control over the issue and affect everything else around us. Again, take a picture if you can, if you're outside, get as much information down on the, if you see one on the outside of the quarantine zone. If you see them, squash them, and look before you leave. Do you have any questions?
Well, another comment,
Yep.
which you may know about this, but if not, maybe it'll help in your research. As of last summer, watching all this materialize in my yard around the neighborhood, I noticed that there are three predators to these things that I noticed. Spiders, I don't know what type of spiders, but spiders will fight and kill these flies. Praying mantises
Yep.
and yellow jackets. In fact, last year I saw 3 yellow jackets attack one of these things on my deck and took it back to their nest. I kid you not, I watched the whole thing. I didn't have my video camera at the time, I was so enthralled with what was going on. But anyway, I don't know if you know that or heard of that.
Yeah,
or not,
in
but
fact,
the point is, folks, if you have, normally you'd probably get rid of yellow jacket nests and things like that. If you can leave them up, don't touch them, because they are a predator.
Put little cups of soda around your plants.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
in fact, I had a slide on this and I deleted it because it,
I'm just telling you what I witnessed.
it the
was awesome.
praying mantises, there's multiple different species of praying mantis. The Chinese praying mantis, the one that really eats them the most, they pretty much eat anything that they can overpower.
Yeah.
And as promising as that might be, we would need a lot of praying mantises. But
Yeah, the praying mantis not a big deal, but like yellow jackets and things.
I just wanted to say 2 things about that, because I've been monitoring these on migrant lines for 3 years.
Yeah.
We do have yellow jackets that come around. Just be cautious with that, because the yellow jackets are in their presence, but they're feeding on the honeydew. They want the sweet things that the sapsuckers are tapping into.
Okay.
If 1 or 2 went after them, wonderful. I've tried my own experiments with praying mantis
Sure.
and the hatchlings, the different instar states. I'm trying to find a biological control on my own property
Sure.
and use, natural methods of trying to deal with the pests besides just killing thousands of them at a
Yeah.
time. But I have not seen any natural predators.
yeah,
I know that there have been reports of dogs eating them and getting sick. Very much like, when they feed on the tree of heaven, it builds up a toxin inside them, which makes them, no creature wants to eat them. It's very similar to a monarch butterfly.
Yeah, sure, right.
So that's one of the concerns as well. So I don't know, maybe it was a different type of wasp-looking
Yeah,
thing.
I mean, it could have just been a fluke, it was just awesome when I
Like
saw
a
it.
cicada killer, something
Yeah,
that
it-
might resemble it.
Yeah.
I mean, and like I said, I deleted this slide because there are some biological control methods, but they're not in the numbers that we would need to eliminate the issue. The parasitic wasps are probably the closest thing to a great biological control method, but again, we don't have them in the numbers they're invasive to begin with, so fighting an invasive with an invasive isn't the best option. But it could be promising. And the invasive wasps, for those of you that don't know, are not harmful to humans, as most people think that they would be. All they do is they lay their eggs inside the egg mass of the spotted lanternfly, but they also lay their egg mass inside of other egg masses of native species. So it's an issue. But what's that? Yeah, it's just a battle of finding the lesser of all evils. That's the biggest thing. So that integrated pest management approach, it's finding what works the best with the least amount of lethal force. Yeah, so mechanical is definitely number 1, and then we work on biological, and then chemical at last resort. Most people, they just want to see results. So we go straight to chemical, but that's not the best option. Mechanical, biological. The number 1 job for IPM is education. So even with mosquito work, the best thing that you can do is tell someone just to dump the cup of water in their backyard that's holding water, because that prevents mosquitoes from breeding. That's mechanical. That eliminates the need for any sort of chemical or bacteria to be put in that water to stop them from breeding. So educate your neighbors, educate anyone that doesn't know about the lanternfly, get them to kill the lanternflies that they have on their property, spread the word about the lanternfly if they don't know about it already. If they don't know about it already, I don't know where they've been, because It's been here for, it's everywhere. Any other questions? No, okay. I think I saw your hand first.
Are you our contact person for the spotted lanternfly?
So for the conservation district, yes.
Have you hired anyone specifically?
The
Title is that?
For Lehigh County, the best person to contact would be the extension office. So Emily Swackhammer, she works out of Montgomery and Lehigh, and then I forget the other one's name for. But if you call the Lehigh County Conservation District or any of the surrounding conservation districts, yours would be Lehigh, they will put you in the right direction of who to actually contact.
Was anyone actually hired though, specifically for that job? Because that job and the mosquito is going to be a huge issue in North Country Township this summer.
So I'm actually the mosquito. Mosquito used to be, as of last year, it was run out of the Penn State Extension Office. Penn State dropped all of the mosquito programs because Penn State believes that they're more of an education and outreach, not a implement. And so we are now based out of the Lehigh County Conservation District, which is why I'm here tonight spreading the word on lanternflies and IPM approaches. As far as the Conservation District goes on the lanternflies, we are here for the education and outreach and providing of kind of information of who to go talk to. And that's kind of where we stand on it. But as far as, I think what you're looking for, the education office or the extension office would be the best place to go. Sorry that
I know, I was hoping for a superhero to come in and help us here. I'll be honest, I'm trying my best on my own here, but
it's
somebody to come out and identify, the tree of heaven trees and decide which ones are going to be our trap trees. To organize banding of different trees in the area, specifically.
so
on
our
property.
hopes is to start doing something like that. Right now is really just resources and people.
I don't want to attack you with these questions.
No,
I
I
appreciate you being here. I really do.
this is the beginning of what we're trying to establish, something like that, and just these town hall meetings really is what we're trying to get out there and start with, and then from here wherever it goes is to be determined.
We have some troops ready to work. Let us know.
I think this gentleman had a question too, but I go ahead.
I was just going to say, well, this past summer, I looked up the 2 maple trees I had on my property that are young, 3 or 4 years old, and there were formations of standing lanternflies in rows. And so I got out my shop vac and sucked it up at 50 or 70 flat. What I do is we put some ammonia into the sponge and light on top. Oh, is that right? Yeah. That's what I was doing. What do you do? Take a 2-gallon portable shop vac. And a shop vac. Vacuum cleaner. Oh, vacuum. A shop vac. Oh, okay. And it's one that you can use for water. I made an extension so I could reach up high in the tree if I see any, but what I did is every morning I would go out, suck the trees that were in trouble, and I put a sponge in the bottom of the tank that had household ammonia in it. And once you turn the vacuum cleaner off, it sounds like popcorn. Open it up in 3 minutes, they're dead. Oh, really? Yeah. I've been doing that now for 4 years, and it works. Ammonia?
So as far as so that's kind of,
That's aggressive.
no, well, that's not where I was going with it. The thing is that because you have your ammonia contained, I can't really say what I was going to say.
Yeah, it's a sponge. So it's
Since you're pinpointing who your target is, it's a little bit of a gray area for what I was going to say. The extension website has a great article on using home remedies to kill lanternflies. So a lot of people are putting Dawn dish soap in a pump sprayer and going around and spraying these things like crazy because it kills it. The problem with home remedies as pesticides is that there is no safety data sheets for these homemade remedies. There are no emergency contacts. There's no testing that's been done. They are not approved by the Environmental Protection Agency. There's nothing on the websites about it, on how it affects everything else, how it affects the plant that you're spraying.
No one's telling us what to do other than squashes. You can't squash every one of them.
Well, there are resources, though, the online resources on what is available to you, though.
I was using wasp spray with
seen it work, but, you know.
So again, it's
There's just
the
thousands
waft
of them.
spray. It's just you're just spraying the chemicals and killing what you see, though. Finding a long-term solution is.
You know, I don't mean to attack you, but
No,
I'm
it's-
here to find out what to do. I'm not going to find out what to do.
So contacting a local landscaper, someone who has their pesticide license, who can, if you're looking for immediate results, contacting someone who has a pesticide applicator's permit to come out and do a application is the best result.
One other thing I want to bring up, I think it's every 17 years, but in Pennsylvania, every 17 years, these cicadas come out of the ground, and that's this year. I assume you know about this. Now, given the fact that the cicadas haven't been out while the lanternflies are out, I'm pretty sure nobody knows what's going to happen. This seems like a double whammy for Pennsylvania in terms of our area. Do you have any comments about that? You might know more than
I
the
don't.
average person about that in this room. But out of curiosity,
I don't know what the effect will actually be, just because I haven't. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
okay, I'm saying
It's
like,
something
it
that'd
hasn't happened in a long time. So.
be nice to observe, but
Yeah. Okay.
I don't have really a prediction of what.
Yeah, throwing it out there.
You were first.
Pardon me? Pardon me?
There'll be summer insects, that's for sure.
It's fun.
Everybody here is concerned about the falls.
Yeah.
How many people are involved in the country? 3,000 people?
Plenty here.
Right, so how many people are in this room? So we kill what we got on our property, but the guy across the street who's not here flies onto my property because he doesn't care.
Yeah.
So when does, and I can't treat him
Yep.
because I get a farm.
Yep.
When does Lowell Country step in and take care of the problem? Who can do that? Because they can go on these properties, they can treat trees.
Yeah.
I live in a neighborhood with, say, 300 houses. Every house has on the front sidewalk red maples.
Yeah.
There's 600 red maples in my neighborhood. Every one of them has at least 100 to 200 lanternflies on the wall.
Yep.
So I get mine too, but that does not cover 590.
And I hear you there. It's
So my
as far as
Lower McCutcheon has to start doing something, not
yeah.
one homeowner.
As far as regulation goes, I don't know what the answer is currently. Whether more regulation is going to come out, but are people really going to follow the regulation? I don't know. It's
But can Lower McCutcheon go around with tree bands on all the trees in all the neighborhoods and start capturing before they start?
that.
That is a real solution, which is we can't.
Can I give you some of the solutions we've been attempting to do? Trying to get the youth involved from a teacher. So education is the key. So we're starting with education. Hopefully, we can tell our neighbors to watch this loop that's going to be playing on Channel 66, correct? So what we have done, I'm not saying everyone can do this. I walk around my neighborhood, I walk my dog, I take my kids. I've trained my kids
So,
next Tuesday.
it's,
This is going to be broadcast on our, we have a TV set, makes a TV channel. This needs to be broadcast on a TV channel, let more people know about it. It's on our website. We're going to have this whole presentation, also the website and the Facebook page. We have to possibly work with local and retailers, possibly, maybe have them help get the word out to residents. But unfortunately, we can't go out and force every resident to be, you know,
so,
we put out media, we put out our signs, we put this meeting out, and there's, you know, so many people here. Our main issue is we have to get the word out to everybody.
so the part I hate the most about the spreading the word about the lanternflies is that I don't have an end-all, fix-all answer to give everyone. And I'm going to relate it back to the mosquitoes, where if you've got a problem with mosquitoes on your property, I can go to your property and I can tell you exactly where they're coming from and what to do, and that's source reduction. If you're feeding them, if they're feeding on you, then you're breeding them, and they're breeding on your property. The lanternflies, the control method isn't as easy, and the funds aren't as really, it's the research, the funds, it's not there like it has been with mosquitoes. So you guys,
In your defense, you've only been tackling this problem for a couple of years.
yeah,
It
it's,
hasn't manifested itself to
so
the point where it can have a, you know,
my hope is kind of that you guys pick up on kind of what issues are here and what we're trying to do, and then you kind of go home and talk about it and see what kind of stuff you can raise with your local officials to try and combat the issue. And this is pretty much what I have to tell you. This is what's being done, and the rest is for you to interpret and kind of find. This is what I have to work with. That's finding the answer is kind of what I don't have. That's the issue, and that's the part I hate the most about it.
So I see that you have a spotted lanternfly tattoo in your box of goodies up there.
I do. Would you like one?
Yes, my husband did pick them up in upstate New York this past fall. Pretty impressed that upstate New York was already ahead of the game a little bit with that. Can we get them out to our youth?
Yes.
Can we
Yeah.
spread the word that way? 'Cause I'm telling you, the kids are who we really need to educate on this, because they're the ones out there killing the spotted lanternflies and looking for the egg masses. Masses I miss my children's spot.
So it's a. I agree with you and I disagree with you, and I've had this conversation with a lot of other people as far as kind of this just the youth education goes, and we have plenty of volunteers like at the extension office who go out and talk to school students, and maybe not as local as Lehigh and here, but they go out, they talk to the kids. The kids do a great job at killing them, but talking to the parents, the adults, that's where the action's really going to be taken. If we get the word out like we have tonight about what issues are there and what is and is not being done, you guys are the people who are going to take the action. But the kids it's also a great education outreach method.
I'd like to point a couple of things. We're talking about the honeydew, and it's not just bumblebees. If you see hornets, they're very aggressive. Stay away. They'll come after you. That's a real issue with your own treatment. You're talking chemicals. You're going to pollute the whole neighborhood. Everything's going to get polluted. Most of this stuff is considered a carcinogenic. There are people in this world who are allergic to that kind of stuff. Pennsylvania has a hypersensitivity list where people who are doing treatments have to call your house 24 hours before they're within 500 feet of your house. I get 50 calls a week in my neighborhood. My wife is a sensitivity person. If she gets a sniff of this stuff, it'll kill her. So you have to be real sensitive to the chemicals you're using and how to use them properly. More isn't better. A lot of people do that, and that's not the way to do it. The label, you said that.
The label is the law.
And I'll stress that. But for me, I'm an organic gardener. I don't use chemicals. Sunshine, rainwater, and a lot of hard work. And you've got to be careful. I don't want to eat that stuff.
Yeah, well, yeah, I don't think I said that tonight. Well, yes, that's true. I know
Just my point is, you
if an apple tree or any sort of orchard tree is injected, you cannot eat from that tree. If anyone didn't know that, don't eat.
I've got a bunch of local pest companies too. They will not treat any tree that is a bearing of fruit. So,
Yes, and
yeah,
they
obviously,
won't, but
rightfully so.
if you treat a fruit-bearing tree, do not eat from that tree. I wouldn't even, I'd go a little bit longer than that. The residual, yeah.
So I have one last comment. So I'm probably going to be the guinea pig in my neighborhood. I seriously doubt anybody else is going to do the tree injection, but I'm going to do it out of nothing more than morbid curiosity to see
Yeah.
what happens.
Okay.
So according to what the guy told me, he told me how the process works, and I basically, after he does the injection, I'm going to keep a day-by-day log of what goes on. To make a long story short, is that something worth reporting to your office in terms of my findings? Does it even matter? Is that injection serves at a point where you don't really need any more information?
As far as the,
Something I can do to help, if you will.
I want to say yes, but there have been a ton of research projects going on where they're literally going out with 40 by 100 foot tarps and not only injecting the trees, but then collecting the honeydew with upside down umbrellas and then testing the honeydew to see if the chemicals, if they're excreting it, if it's going through their system. And obviously it is because it's killing them, but
Okay. So, all right, so I mean, I'll record those for my own.
yeah, no, definitely. And
But
if
I didn't know if it would be helpful.
you catch anything interesting, definitely forward it along, but
Sure. Okay, thanks.
anyone else?
Thank you very much.
Sure, sure.